Hello history lovers and welcome back to the channel. My name is Hannah and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. And today we are going to explore all of the Tudor princes. Now the people on this list are the male descendants of King Henry VII and Elizabeth of York, the first Tudor monarchs, and are therefore males who have a claim to the English throne and have English royal blood, even if they are not necessarily titled as or technically are princes. One caveat is that I won't be including illegitimate children, so people like Henry Fitzroy unfortunately have not made the list, as these are all legitimate male heirs. The other caveat that I have placed on this video is that everyone on this list was born before the death of the last Tudor monarch, Queen Elizabeth I, on the 24th of March 1603. I'm going to try and make this list as logical as possible, so let's look at the children of King Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. The first Tudor prince on our list is an actual prince, their eldest son and at one point heir, Arthur Tudor, Prince of Wales. Arthur was born either on the 19th or the 20th of September 1486 in Winchester. Arthur was the embodiment of the houses of York and Lancaster reuniting, which was significant as his Lancastrian father had won the throne through defeating the previous Yorkist king in combat. Arthur's mother was the niece of the previous king and was therefore also a member of the House of York. Her marriage to King Henry VII helped bring about the end of the Wars of the Roses. At the age of 2, Arthur was betrothed to the Spanish Infanta Catalina of Aragon, an impressive power play for the tiny kingdom of England. A year later, Arthur was officially given the title of the Prince of Wales. Arthur would frequently write to his betrothed Catalina, and the pair were finally wed on the 14th of November 1501 at St. Paul's Cathedral. Catalina anglicised her name to Catherine, and the bride was given away by her 10-year-old brother-in-law, Prince Henry, Duke of York. Arthur was 15, and Catherine was 16. The wedding banquet took place in the Great Hall of Baynard's Castle. Catherine danced in a stately manner clicking castanets, and Arthur's brother, Prince Henry, whipped off his gown and whirled their sister Margaret across the floor, leaping and twirling to the music. The Archbishop of Canterbury and the Bishop of London blessed the marital bed and left the newlywed couple to consummate their marriage. The next morning, Arthur, who was quite frankly feeling like a Billy Big Bollocks, and one of the lads boast that he had been in Spain, and that marriage was, after all, thirsty work. However, the evidence, or lack thereof, suggests otherwise. From the letters that Arthur wrote to his in-laws in Spain, we can infer that the marriage was a happy one, and on the 21st of December 1501, the Prince and Princess of Wales left Baynard's Castle for the Welsh marshes and Ludlow Castle. Catherine was not used to the colder climate of England and travelled by litter, wrapped in furs, while Prince Arthur rode on horseback. Arthur had not been well prior to the journey, and the cold weather and bitter winds could not have helped his health. The Prince and Princess of Wales arrived at Ludlow Castle in January 1502. In the march, both Catherine and Arthur were struck by a virus. We think it was the sweating sickness, but other illnesses have also been suggested. Catherine made a quick recovery, but Arthur Tudor, Prince of Wales, died from the illness on the 2nd of April 1502. King Henry VIII. The next prince on this list is Prince Henry, Duke of York, better known as King Henry VIII. Prince Henry was born on the 28th of June 1491 and was the second surviving son to parents King Henry VII and Queen Elizabeth of York. Prince Henry would succeed where his brother Arthur failed in assuming the throne of England upon their father's death, and not only did Henry take his brother's throne, he also took his widow too.
This is awkward.
Remember guys, sharing is caring. Henry and Catherine wed on the 11th of June 1509 at Greenwich. the marriage seemed fairly happy, and Catherine had multiple pregnancies. But unfortunately, only 2 would survive, a prince named after his father and a daughter named Mary. Unfortunately for the royal couple, their son Henry died after a few weeks. With no male heir, a new woman was now on the scene, and Catherine was too old to bear children, so Henry was looking for an annulment. The only problem was, when Henry asked the Pope for an annulment, he said,
Computer says nah.
Henry was trying to argue that his marriage to Catherine was invalid because she had consummated her marriage to his brother Arthur, which made his marriage to Catherine invalid. However, Catherine argued that she remained untouched as her and Arthur had only spent 6 nights together. Henry had already moved on and was courting a new woman named Anne Boleyn, who he intended to make queen. To do this, Henry separated England from the Catholic Church and created the Church of England. Henry installed himself as the head of the Church of England, which meant he now no longer relied on the Pope to grant him an annulment. Henry VIII wed his new woman Anne Boleyn at Whitehall Palace on the 25th of January 1533, while he was still technically married to Catherine. As Catherine and Henry's marriage wasn't annulled until the 23rd of May 1533. Henry and Anne welcomed their first and only child on the 7th of September 1533, a daughter named Elizabeth, after their mothers. Anne did get pregnant multiple times after the birth of Elizabeth. However, none of these pregnancies came to term. Anne was known to have a bit of a temper and was slowly wearing on her husband, the king. And after 3 years of marriage, 9 years together in total, Anne had promised the king a male heir, and she had failed to deliver. Just like her predecessor Catherine, Anne has got to go. Anne Boleyn was arrested and eventually beheaded on the 19th of May 1536. Henry became engaged to a new woman, Jane Seymour, on the 20th of May 1536. They married 10 days later on the 30th. Jane, although Henry's 3rd wife, would be the only one of his 6 wives to provide him with a surviving male heir. Prince Edward was born a year later, on the 12th of October at Hampton Court Palace. Henry was overjoyed. Unfortunately, his wife and Queen Jane would not be so lucky, as she suffered from childbirth complications and would pass away on the 24th of October 1537. Henry was deeply affected by the death of Jane, but he recognised the need to remarry for political reasons, and to try for a spare. So he married German Princess Anne of Cleves on the 6th of January 1540 at Greenwich Palace. Anne is remembered by history as the ugly wife, but this is not necessarily the case. However, this marriage was the briefest of Henry's 6 marriages, as 6 months later, on the 12th of July 1540, their marriage was annulled. Henry wasn't particularly invested in this match anyway, and despite being his 4th marriage, this was really the first political match, and the first one where he hadn't met his wife prior to the wedding.
Wait a tick. That means I'm single again! Oh, behave! Yeah!
However, Henry wasn't single for long, as he wed for the 5th time on the 28th of July 1540 to Catherine Howard. Catherine Howard's marriage to Henry VIII was short-lived and ended in tragedy. Despite initial appearances of a happy union, Catherine's past caught up with her. It was later revealed that she had engaged in relationships before her marriage, and rumours circulated about her alleged affairs. In 1541, just a year after their marriage, Catherine Howard's infidelities were exposed. Accused of adultery, she faced charges related to her relationships with other men, including Thomas Culpeper. Catherine Howard was beheaded on the 13th of February 1542, becoming the 2nd Queen of England to ever receive this fate. the first being her cousin and Henry's second wife, Anne Boleyn. Henry VIII's marriage to Catherine Parr marked the sixth and final union for the Tudor king. Catherine Parr, a widow twice over, married Henry in 1543 on the 12th of July. Unlike some of Henry's previous marriages, this one proved to be stable and supportive. Catherine Parr was known for her intelligence and interest in religious matters. She played a role in reconciling Henry with his daughters Mary and Elizabeth from his previous marriages. Catherine also acted as a stepmother to Henry's son, the future King Edward VI. Henry even made Catherine regent in 1544 when he went away to France. The only other wife who got this honour was his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. On the 28th of January 1547, King Henry VIII died at the age of 55 at Whitehall Palace. Henry is buried next to Jane Seymour in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. Prince Henry, Duke of Cornwall. Henry, Duke of Cornwall, was the firstborn son of King Henry VIII and Queen Catherine of Aragon, and was born on the 1st of January 1511. His birth was a welcomed one, and the celebrations lasted for well over a month. The baby boy was christened on the 5th of January at Richmond Palace. His godparents were the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Earl of Surrey, and the Countess of Devon. Henry could not have shown Catherine any more praise or admiration for finally delivering a healthy baby boy. Unfortunately, this was not to last, as the precious prince died on the 22nd of February 1511. He was just 7 weeks old. Catherine was beside herself with grief, as any mother would be, and Henry supported her, but there is no evidence that he openly grieved. However, he spent a lavish sum on the funeral. The baby's body was brought from Richmond to Westminster by 3 barges draped with black cloth along the River Thames. One ambassador who was meeting the king that day noted he was advised not to mention the death of the prince, lest it revive his grief. Prince Edward Tudor, or King Edward VI. Prince Edward Tudor, the future King Edward VI, was born on the 12th of October 1537 to King Henry VIII and his wife and Queen Jane Seymour at Hampton Court Palace. His birth was a welcomed one, as Henry had tried for the best part of 28 years for a legitimate male heir.
Breathtaking. I shall call him Mini-Me.
Unfortunately, Edward's mother Jane died shortly after giving birth, and he would receive 3 stepmothers, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, and Catherine Parr, before the age of 9. On the 28th of January 1547, Edward's father, King Henry VIII, would die, and young Prince Edward would ascend the throne at the age of 9. Due to his young age, a regency council was created to govern on his behalf until he came of age. His maternal uncle, Edward Seymour, Duke of Somerset, served as Lord Protector, much to the annoyance of his stepmother, Catherine Parr, who had hoped to be on the Regency Council. However, King Henry VIII had foreseen that as a rich, attractive royal widow, she may be the target of a scheming and manipulative future husband who may create discord.
Hello there.
As such, the council tried to keep the new king away from his stepmother and half-sisters. Edward VI's reign is notable for its strong influence on the English Reformation. Under the guidance of his regents, particularly the Duke of Somerset and later John Dudley, Duke of Northumberland, England experienced significant religious changes. The authorities pursued a more Protestant direction, introducing the Book of Common Prayer in 1549. Monasteries were dissolved, and the English Church distanced itself further from the Catholic traditions. Edward VI's reign was tragically cut short by his untimely death. In 1553, at the age of 15, he fell seriously ill. The king, aware of his impending death, sought to secure the Protestant succession. In his device for the succession, he bypassed his half-sisters, Mary and Elizabeth. So he named his cousin Lady Jane Grey and her heirs male as his successors. Although how much of this was Edward's thinking and how much was the manipulation of John Dudley, the father-in-law to Lady Jane Grey, is up for debate / borderline suspicious.
Coincidence? I think not!
Edward VI succumbed to tuberculosis on the 6th of July, 1553, and unsuccessfully passed the throne to his cousin Lady Jane Grey for only 13 days. Edmund Tudor, Duke of Somerset. Edmund Tudor was born on the 21st of February 1499 at Greenwich Palace, and was the 6th child and youngest son of King Henry VII and Queen Elizabeth of York. His elder brothers Prince Arthur and King Henry VIII were covered earlier in this video. Just a quick note, Edmund never received the peerage of Somerset, but he was stylised as such. Okay? Moving on. His baptism took place in the Church of the Observant Friars on the 24th of February, 1499, accompanied by splendid celebrations. Edmund received his name in honour of his paternal grandfather, Edmund Tudor, 1st Earl of Richmond, who was the father of King Henry VII. Edmund's godparents were his paternal grandmother, Lady Margaret Beaufort, along with Edward Stafford, the 3rd Duke of Buckingham, and Richard Fox. Lady Margaret Beaufort displayed her generosity by presenting the infant with a gift of £100 and extending rewards to the midwife and nurses. During his early years, Edmund resided in the royal nursery of Eltham Palace, alongside his elder sisters, Margaret and Mary, as well as his brother, the Duke of York, who would later become King Henry VIII. Notably, his eldest sibling Arthur had a separate household and did not share the nursery with his younger siblings. In September 1499, when Edmund was 7 months old, he was part of a significant visit to the royal nursery at Eltham Palace. Accompanied by his elder siblings, Margaret, Mary and Henry, the nursery received esteemed guests in the form of Erasmus and Thomas More. During this visit, the infant Edmund was cradled in the arms of his nurse, adding a touching moment to the occasion. Unfortunately, Edmund Tudor died on the 19th of June 1500 at Hatfield. He was 15 months old. Edmund was given a state funeral, and the records show that King Henry VII paid over £242 for the funeral. That's about £161,161.59 today. On the 22nd of June 1500, Edmund was laid to rest in Westminster Abbey. His final resting place is with his sisters Elizabeth and Catherine Tudor, both of whom also died young. Thank you for listening to part 1 of this series. Join me next time as I will explore the male princes who descended from King Henry VII's eldest daughter, Margaret Tudor, Queen of Scotland. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure that notification bell is on so you never miss a video. And if you really enjoyed this video, why not give a super thanks? But anyway guys, until the next one, have a wonderful day.